going to take this off to talk. Welcome, everyone. Can you all hear us okay? Just raise your hand. Participants. Yes, okay. We have Elaine, Hunter, and Melody. Thank you. We have Deborah Lurie here with us. She's school board candidate she's re-running for position number 4. And we want to thank you for coming in and talking with us. We have one participant in the room, including myself and Deborah, but we have a handful of people online on Zoom. So thank you. If you have any questions, you can put them in the chat and we'll ask her as we go along. She has some questions herself, but we are happy to entertain yours to her as we go through this hour. So thank you and take it away.
Thank you. I just want to thank Victor and Lurie for hosting myself, but also all of the candidates. It is challenging in local politics to have the time, especially in the world of COVID, but even outside of COVID, to have the opportunity to interact with voters, to really get a chance to talk about different issues that matter to the people here in the community. I know it's a tough day and we're early in the general election cycle. Ballots will be coming out in about a week. Well, week and a half. I think they get mailed. They say 3 weeks prior to November 2nd. And so, where is that this week? They come out in a few days. Anyways, sorry about that. And so I'm just excited to have the opportunity to talk. I didn't prepare any remarks, but I did write down a list of topics that people often ask about and that I've seen kind of roaming around the community in terms of questions. I know this is getting recorded, so if you're joining us at a later time, thank you for your interest in the issues. And I am very reachable via phone and email. I much prefer having live conversations than conversations over email. You lose something in that. It's less personal and less interactive. I'm happy to meet anyone, anytime, whether it's Starbucks or local coffee shop or chat on the phone. So my contact information is on my website, which is deb4kids.com, and also on my Facebook page, as well as when the voters pamphlet comes out, my contact information is in there as well. I think the best way to start, unless anyone has any opening questions, which I'm not hearing they do, is really to talk about the role of the board. Put this up here. Is to really talk about the role of the board and my experiences. As you might know, I'm running for re-election. I'm just completing my first term on the school board. They're 4-year terms. And it's really a learning experience in the beginning of a term. It's the school board is responsible for very specific things with regards to the running of the school district. The school board is responsible first and foremost for hiring and supervising the superintendent. And also the other issues are really managing the school district at we like to say 10,000 foot level. We don't get into micromanaging the operations of the district, the day-to-day operations of the district. It's really setting policy and making sure that the superintendent is carrying out that policy as set by the school board. So some of the things that we did in the last 4 years that I participated in that I'm really proud of are updating the values, vision, and mission of the district. It's something that you want to do every 10 to 20 years or so as priorities and the community demographics change. And it's where we came up with the value of students are the priority. Mercer Island School District values the community in terms of parents, staff, and students. And really what has helped us in the last 4 years and through COVID in particular is making decisions, highlighting the fact that all decisions should be made in the mindset that students are the priority. So how does this decision impact students, whether it be talking about our contract negotiations with our staff, or it's making policy decisions, or it's other decisions on terms of how hiring decisions of staff teachers and administrators, whether it is curriculum decisions, how does it impact students, and what is best for students. That is, I think I've watched that change over time, really become a student-focused decision-making tool. Decision-making tool, and I think that is helping to serve our students. So in terms of a lot of the inquiries that the school board gets, they're very much operational decisions, and that makes sense. How does the school impact your students on a daily basis? And that really is very much an operational role. Your classroom teacher, the curriculum that your students, the teaching that your students are receiving, the faculty and staff that your students are interacting with on a daily basis, the autonomy and decisions that your building principal and leadership team have and are able to make. Those really are operational decisions that are left to the superintendent and then her employees. Trust me when I say you do not want the school board getting into the day-to-day decisions of running the schools. We are not the educational experts. We are not the K-12 experts in terms of teaching our students. And that is, I think the highest functioning boards are the ones that really leave those day-to-day management decisions to the experts that we hire, well, our superintendent and then who she hires to run those day-to-day decisions. What's interesting right now is we are, as you might or might not know, Superintendent Koloski has indicated to us that this is her last year serving as superintendent. This is her 5th and final year. She is looking forward to retiring and heading out on her next adventure. So, along with everything else that we're doing, the board is working to make a decision in terms of what the next steps are for our next superintendent. I see this as, frankly, the most important role that the board has. It is ultimately the 5 board members' decision as a group to make. It's, we certainly want to get community input in terms of what people are looking to see, what people have been happy with, what people have been unhappy with, and really focusing it on the role that the board has in terms of setting the values, vision, and mission, making the ultimate budget decisions, making the ultimate curriculum decisions, and being able to either continue on our current trajectory that we're on, or whether or not we're looking for an agent of change, someone who really is coming in to shake things up and make substantial changes to how the district is run and what the priorities are. So what I'm looking at is I am very satisfied with where our district is and where we are headed. And that's big picture. Is everyone happy with every little decision? And frankly, even some of the big decisions that happen in the district? No. I have a 10th grader, and I definitely, have concerns about day-to-day concerns about her education and about responses and interactions with things that are happening at school. I'm also very pleased with many of the things that I see at the school. But I try not to make my decisions based on those one-time interactions, really kind of as a whole. How are we looking about where we're going? So here's where we are, and then here's where we're going. And I'm going to kind of talk about my perception of where we are and where we're going, recognizing that everyone has different perceptions, whether they have elementary students right now, whether or not they have students who have not yet started in the schools, or whether or not they have students who are kind of on their way out, or they've got grandkids, starting to come in. Everyone has their own perceptions, and they're all very valid based on what your experience is. And the one of the great things about the Mercer Island community is that we are all very passionate about the education our students are receiving. And we know that we all want the best for our student. And hopefully it means we want the best for every student, but that's what I think parents and community members are fighting for, is that we want decisions based on, how are you going to serve my child and how are you going to help them succeed? And frankly, that's a different answer for every parent and for every student, including students in the same family. each student very likely could have a different answer. So I'm going to take a step back, realizing that I didn't really introduce myself for those of you who don't know me. And I'm going to give you a little bit about my background so that you can understand the perspective that I'm coming from. So I am I was not born, but raised, lived on Mercer Island since I was about 3.5, 4 years old, grew up in the Mercer Island School District, was lucky enough to attend 3 of our elementary schools. I attended Island Park for kindergarten as a half-day student. I attended Mercer View for 2 years until that school closed down because of enrollment decline. And I then attended West Mercer Elementary for 3rd through 6th grade. I attended Islander Middle School for 7th and 8th. At that point, it was a 2-year middle school. And then Mercer Island High School for high school, and am a very proud graduate of Mercer Island High School, class of 1990. Just a couple weeks ago, attended our 30th, well, sort of 31st reunion. That was a small showing, but it was really nice to see people. And it was 31st due to COVID. And so it was pushed back a year. I understand the class of 1991 just made the decision to push back their reunion a year just to hopefully get more people comfortable attending their reunions. What's really fun, one of the things that's really fun is I think there's about, I've counted before, but it changes. I think about 10% of our graduating class, so about 30 to 35 classmates are raising their kids on Mercer Island in the Mercer Island Public Schools. I think that's really a testament to community, our community, and the fact that, while there are certainly challenges to growing up on Mercer Island, we see so many of the benefits and want those same things for our students that we were able to experience. I think also in seeing people at the reunion, we have a lot of Mercer Island graduates who are on the island, but then so many more that are in the area, whether it's Bellevue or Kirkland, or even, as far as Bellingham and Portland. So many people have gone away to school and then come back to the Pacific Northwest to raise their students. I really think it's a demonstration of the values and the ways that we can serve our students here. So, a lot has changed, but a lot has also stayed the same. So I went away to college. I went to Franklin and Marshall College in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I was looking for a small liberal arts college that had a business major, because that's what I thought I wanted to do. Lo and behold, as you grow up in your late teens and early 20s, some interests change. And I really felt like I benefited from a liberal arts education in being able to learn in lots of different areas. We have a lot of different requirements that we had to take. I was a business major and a religious studies minor. And what I really enjoyed most about college, and what I think I gained the most, was really learning how to think. I gained a lot of knowledge throughout my K-12 education, got a lot of confidence in my learning, and then went off and I really learned how to think, and was able to apply the information that I learned earlier on, and how that information impacts the world and how my opinion matters in the world. As a business major, my senior year, I took business law, and that was my first interaction with the law. I mean, I had family members who were lawyers, but not immediate family. So, I never really had any idea of what lawyers do. But it really, one thing that I really believe is that our students, as young as elementary school, need to start finding their passion. And when students and adults, frankly, find their passion, they're going to succeed. And I struggled with my business major because I was always good at math and I was always confident in it, but I didn't have a love for it in the same way. I didn't love the learning. I had lots of interests and I wanted to do well in school, but I didn't have that love. When I took business law my senior year in college, it just clicked. The way that it was taught and the way that I learned and the way that I was forced to think, it really clicked and it made sense to me. And, frankly, it was easy for me because I think it all kind of merged together. And it was that was my very much aha moment is, I like this. I want to learn more. Yeah, it's difficult and challenging, but I wanted to be challenged in that way. And so when I graduated from college, I moved back to Mercer Island, and did some different things. I worked with kids. I worked as a youth group advisor. I was a camp counselor. I was a nanny. And I really was looking for that opportunity to figure out what I wanted to do and what I wanted to do next. I was thinking that I actually wanted to go into education. And I applied for master's in education programs. And then I realized I studied for the GRE, I did my applications, and I really realized something's missing here. And while I love working with students and love working with kids of all ages, that wasn't really the path that was getting me excited about learning. And I was like, I loved this class in undergrad, and I started looking at law schools, started studying for the LSAT, and really realized it kind of set me straight again, that this is the way my brain works. I did the best on my LSAT as I did on any other standardized testing, which wasn't necessarily my strength, but it really was, the LSAT was my strength. And it really cemented the fact that when you find the thing that complements the way that your brain works, where you find your passion, that's where you find success. So I went to American University in DC for law school. I was really looking for the right kind of environment in terms of the community that I was looking for. And there was a strong focus on criminal justice and a strong focus on children's advocacy. And so I knew also that Washington, DC would provide the opportunities that I was looking for in working in the greater community as a law student. So I knew entering law school that I wanted to do children's advocacy. Didn't really know what that meant or in what way that I would find my passion. And going through law school, realized that I was fascinated with criminal procedure and criminal law, search and seizure, rights of students. I took education law. I participated in a legal clinic where I represented a child, teenager, in a criminal charge in Maryland, in Montgomery County, Maryland. I interned with the Public Defender Service in Washington, D.C. I came back to the Seattle area for both summers of law school. One, I interned with a juvenile court judge, actually a Mercer Islander, Tony Wartnick, who was a King County Superior Court judge and in juvenile court at the time. And then my second summer, I interned with one of the public defender offices in King County with the juvenile court unit and represented young people, juveniles who were charged with crimes. During my time, I then graduated from law school and I moved back to the Seattle area. Honestly, I wasn't quite ready to move back. I knew I wanted to raise a family here, hopefully raise a family here. But I knew that I was only taking one bar exam. There's no way I was sitting for more than one. And at the time that I took my bar exam, we had no reciprocity with any other state, including Washington, D.C. So it was either move back now and take the Washington State Bar or take another one and then have to, when I did decide I wanted to move back, to then study for another one. Now it's changed and we have reciprocity, at least with some other states. I don't know, it's not my world anymore, but that was the reason why I came straight back, even though it would have been great to be able to explore some other opportunities in other places. That the field of law makes that more challenging to move around like that. But I was fortunate to be able to get hired as a public defender. I started in Pierce County with the public defender's office there. And then in a couple of years, I moved up here to King County. I was really looking for that separation between working in my own community and then my work as a lawyer when I moved back here and was kind of reestablishing myself in this community. And that was a really good divide for me, to be in a different community. But then when I was ready to actually work in my community, I looked for an opportunity here, and I've been with the King County Public Defender's Office. It's had some structural changes, but I've been with the King County Public Defender's Office ever since. Moved back up here in 2002, 2001, 2003, something like that. I can't remember exactly. And I've been back up here ever since. My work as a public defender, I have really fought for the opportunities to work with kids and parents and families in all different areas of the law. I've represented young people, typically ages 11 to 18 in juvenile court who are facing criminal charges. I have represented both youth and families, youth and parents in at-risk youth proceedings, children in need of services proceedings, and truancy proceedings, which are the proceedings involving the school districts. I have represented young people, well, as young as babies, all the way up to parents in child welfare proceedings. We call them dependency proceedings in Washington. And it's abuse and neglect cases. So children who are looking at foster care, parents who are looking to correct their parental deficiencies, as in the legal term, and so that they can provide safe parenting and safe housing for their own children. Those opportunities have enabled me to really become an expert in the areas of chemical, in addiction, in mental health challenges, in education, working with students, and some of my most memorable and satisfying professional encounters was representing my students and working with their individual teachers in terms of advocating for these students. We know that when our students have a teacher or other role model in their schools, even if their family life fluctuates and isn't stable, if they have that role model and that support in their schools, they have a much higher chance of succeeding. Could someone ask Lurie for some water? So I know she was looking for it. Sorry, just getting a little dry here. It's a long time to talk to a few people in the room and then also a screen. That really is where I started thinking about how I can serve my community. I've been an active PTA volunteer since my daughter Joey was in kindergarten at Island Park. I was an active volunteer as a parent with, she was in childcare and preschool at the JCC on Mercer Island. And then, so I was able to serve those roles as a parent. And then I was able to watch as becoming a parent in the district, and then also as a professional in that, thank you so much, working with kids and parents, and then their teachers as a legal professional, not representing them necessarily in their IEPs, but advocating for them in a more general sense. So many of my clients were and are involved, have individualized education plans, have special needs. Our students with special needs of a large variety, whether it is a severe educational need or less severe, where they're able to be incorporated in mainstream classrooms. All students need that type of advocacy that sometimes parents aren't able to give. So that really is what interested me in starting to work with and started really pursuing my interest in looking for my phone. You have it. I just want to look at the time, see how things are going.
It is 5:39.
Okay. Thank you. And how things are going, and being able to help. I know how to advocate for my child, and so many parents are looking for that advice on the best ways to advocate for their child or their children, to make sure that their children's needs are being met, and also, frankly, supporting our schools at the same time. It's impossible for our children's needs to be met if our schools aren't supported at the same time. So that's a little bit about me. Just to kind of finish off, my husband Brian and I moved back to Mercer Island when she was starting kindergarten. We were trying to decide, we were living in Kirkland at the time, trying to decide what path of education we were looking for. And I pushed really hard to return here because of the great experience I had with my education, as well as watching my niece and nephew go through the schools, the Mercer Island School District as well. So I want to, that's kind of where I am coming from. I think that it is the role of the board to make decisions with students as the priority. And there's no hiding the fact that the school district, schools are, we're a system, we're a bureaucracy. It's the way it works. Much of what we do is dictated by the state and the federal government, and then it's up to the local district to implement those things. So while there might be a choice in the way that we implement, the choice of what we have to implement isn't necessarily a choice that we're making at a local level. It's a really challenging place to be in. And while we might know what the right decisions are for our students, we know that, one decision might be the best thing for one student and the most detrimental thing to another student. So finding that balance is a challenge, and it's something that I always keep in mind when making decisions. I think, Carol, did you have a question?
Yeah, you said the board is involved at the 10,000 foot level on curriculum. What types of decisions do you involve in that you set the board in that are not detailed? So
I can explain a bit about it. It's on my list of things to talk about. So thank you for asking that question. So the question was, what type of decisions and involvement does the school board have in the curriculum decisions that for our students? And so the board sets the fundamentals, our goals, and our goals are. I'm not going to be able to recite them all because they're these long statements, but basically it's rigorous and challenging academics. It is meeting the needs of the whole child. It is equity, diversity, and inclusion. Making sure that our students receive a personalized education. So curriculum, falls under several of those, right? So what we do is we have a curriculum committee at school that's led by Learning Services. So Dr. Fred Rundle is our head of Learning Services, and then he has a team of Learning Services. When they make a determination that there is a new curriculum need for a particular subject, there's a curriculum committee, and that curriculum committee is made up of parents, teachers, building administrators, and when appropriate, students. So we have high school students on the curriculum committee. We have that's an oversight committee. So they're really the ones that make the determinations of what curriculum is going to be looked at, and then who's going to make the determinations for what curriculum is going to be looked at. At that point, they then say, say we're going to look at the math curriculum for 6th through 8th grades. So the middle school math curriculum. At that point, there's then these subcommittees that are formed. It's math department, teachers, building leadership. So whether it's an associate principal or principals at the schools, and then again, age appropriately, students, whether it's high school for sure, and then middle school if it's appropriate. And then parents also, whether it's parents of students who have gone through that curriculum or are involved in the curriculum currently or coming. So we're always looking for volunteers of parents. Community members who don't have students in the school certainly are welcome to participate in the committees as well. And we have very specific requirements in terms of we need a teacher who's got this expertise and a parent who's a parent of this age group or this expertise. So that's all laid out in the people that are approached or volunteer for those committees. At that point, that committee participates in, frankly, a lot of research. If it's an English literature class, it's reading books and looking through different opportunities, making sure that you have a wide variety of texts and authors. We've made a really big effort in the last 4 or 5 years in making sure that we have a much more diverse set of authors for our literature classes, frankly, all the way K through 12. I think we've made really great strides there. There's always more work to do, but making sure that we have voices in literature from all different perspectives so that each one of our students can see themselves in an author of the books that they read. Ultimately, our teachers choose from, a set of guidelines, and the different departments choose those curriculums on a yearly basis. But the curriculum committee explores those things. Like I said, whether it's the math curriculum or the literature curriculum, they read different variety of books. They look at the different textbooks that are out there, and then they answer a set of questions for the board. They fill out its questions regarding academic rigor, whether it is the inclusive, whether or not there's diverse perspectives in that curriculum, whether or not there is able to meet the needs of different needs of students' learning abilities. We don't want a student who might be hindered by reading to be hindered in science. So if with a science textbook, we have the technology now where the textbooks are all online, or they have online textbooks, and the text can be read to them rather than what is the reading level that is required to access that content. So we want to make sure that content is accessible by a wide range of readers so that it can be grade level content, even if a student might struggle in the reading aspect of it. They don't then also need to struggle in the content area. Same thing with ELL students, English language learners, might not be proficient in reading English, but they can get that textbook in their home language, in their native language, so that they can excel with the more in-depth content of the literature. Part of it is reading, but so much more is content and really using that content to think about different areas. Science curriculum shouldn't be held back from diving deeper in science curriculum just because they're challenged with reading the textbook that's provided to them. So those are examples of what the curriculum committee looks at. They answer those questions along all those different areas, and then they make recommendations. They come to a decision in terms of what their recommendation is as a committee, and then they bring it to the board. And they bring it to the board, and then the board has an opportunity, and frankly, the public, because it's posted on our agendas. There's always opportunities to review those books that are in the district office. Board community members can go check out the literature. They can see on our board meeting agendas what books we're looking at, and have the opportunity to go through and read the reviews just like the board directors do before our meetings. And then the board directors either approve or don't approve the recommendations based from our leaders. So I get asked that question regularly, and especially lately, as the questions come up about what curriculum are the schools teaching our students, right? Really, I see it as my role. I don't have an agenda when it comes to our curriculum. I rely on our subject matter experts, who are our teachers and our learning services, to tell me what are the best things that our students, ways for our students to be learning, and the best curriculums out there, the best texts out there to enable and engage our students in that type of learning. I am not an educational expert. I'm a legal expert. I consider myself a legal scholar, and I consider myself an expert in children's advocacy. But I am not an educational expert, certainly not an expert in K-12 education. But I think that I'm really good at listening to those who are, letting them guide me in improving those curriculums that are best for our students. In my experience, we the board has made our priorities clear in terms of the values, vision, and mission, and our fundamentals of what we are expecting to see big picture from our curriculum, that it be a diverse and equitable perspective, that it have academic rigor, that it have personalized learning for students who learn in different ways and who are interested in different things, and that we have ways for our students to demonstrate their learning in different ways. Some students love to write papers. I don't know if there's a lot that love to write papers, but we certainly have writers out there. We have students who want to engage by speaking, by telling people what they've learned and what they've gotten out of their out of the content. We have students who want to do a poster board where they can demonstrate, here's what I've learned, that the thing that they love most in this world is sports and swimming, that they can talk about something they've learned in science through their perspective in sports. That's the type of thing that the board is setting. That's project-based learning. And then we have many tech savvy students who can demonstrate through PowerPoints and do presentations for their classes or for their teacher, where they're demonstrating that they understand the content that they're receiving in school. So that's really where I believe that the board's responsibility for curriculum is making sure that the curriculum that we are approving is supported by our educational experts, and then also able to meet the needs of our students with the priorities and goals that we're setting for them, and that they then in turn are setting for their individual goals. I would be remiss if I didn't address one of the current hot topics with regards to curriculum, anti-racist curriculum, as well as critical race theory. As a lawyer, I can say that I learned about critical race theory and examined some of it in law school. So in my much higher education, it's my opinion as a school board director, and frankly, as a lawyer, that there is no place for critical race theory as it actually is and defined. That it's a legal theory that we use in order to really take a look at laws and how they impact different races. There really isn't a place for that in K-12 education. Our students, in fact, not really, there is no place for that in K-12 education. Our students aren't ready for that type of learning and analysis yet. They're still learning about the world that they live in and the world around them, and how they are impacted by the world and how it impacts them. So they're not ready to really analyze how different legal theories are impacting kind of the makeup of our world. And that really is what critical race theory is. As much as people want to argue that it stands for something different, it doesn't. It doesn't. You can look up what the definition of critical race theory is. It's a very specific theory, like I said, that's used in the legal world in analyzing laws and how it impacts different races. I believe that equity and inclusive practices and diversity, as it's defined and really modeled in the Mercer Island School District, is we embrace our similarities and we embrace our differences. We don't put down one group because of their similarities or differences, and we don't lift up a different group because of their similarities or differences. We are better because of what each individual brings to the table. I think that we're better as a community because of what we each bring to the table. We need to celebrate that. We need to learn from that. And there is nothing about anti-racist curriculum that says that if you're white, you're bad. And if you're a minority, if you're a person of color, that you need to be picked up and helped out more than anyone else does. I think that we all have our individual needs. We all, again, have our own perspectives because of the life that we've lived. We need to embrace and learn and really, really listen where people are coming from, and embrace that that people have different perspectives based on the lives that they've led and the experiences that they've had. So I'm just looking at my list here to make sure that I am hitting everything with regard to curriculum. I talked about superintendent search to a degree.
It just, it's 5 minutes to 6.
It's okay. So 20,
so-
we're going to 6:15, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
6:15. So if you want to leave time for, if there are questions
Oh, are
from
there
people.
questions?
Well,
coming?
I
Okay.
will ask them right now. I believe
Okay.
everybody's listening, and I don't know if there's any more questions in the room either.
I'm
So
happy to be interrupted at any point for questions.
no problem.
There are a couple more things that I want to really kind of talk about that I know are brewing in the minds of our community and our country. Just kind of some of the local things that are happening right now. I know there's big talk. It was the board was informed at our last meeting a couple weeks ago that we are looking at a fairly substantial enrollment decline, and with enrollment declines come budget impacts because we are funded on a per student basis. With our student decline, and honestly, I don't remember the exact number. It does fluctuate, but if we're down about 100 students, don't quote me on that number. We're looking at about a $1.6 million shortfall in our budget right now. And that's our projected budget and our projected numbers, because we have to project numbers and we base our yearly budget based on the projected enrollment that we believe. Now, we knew, here's where some of the fallacies are coming in. We knew we were looking at enrollment declines in the next coming years. We had hit a high and we knew that we were going to start to fall, which is normal. Every 5, 10, 15 years, we look at enrollment fluctuations, which is why about 10 years ago, the district at that time, I was just a parent in the district, but made the decision to do open enrollment, and it was to fill seats in classes so that we didn't have to make other budget decisions, because we were funded based on a per student basis. We have been anticipating, we use the resources of a demographer who helps us anticipate enrollment numbers. And we also use our businesses and operations the professionals in our own district to look at enrollments and make projections based on where our enrollment's going to be. What we look at birth rates, we look at housing prices as people are moving onto the island, as people are moving off of the island. And unfortunately with COVID, we really kind of looked at our 5-year decline, and it kind of happened all at once. So we were hoping that we were going to have a bigger bounce back in enrollment than we did this year. We're still hoping that people are going to start coming back as they see that our schools are in person full time, and that our students are safe and our staff is safe. We have extraordinarily, I can't say no transmission in schools, but so far to date, we have what we believe is one transmitted case of COVID in our schools. We certainly have other people that have had COVID, but it hasn't transmitted through our schools. Believe that the safeguards that we have in place are protecting our students and protecting our staff to be receiving their education in person. We know that that's what's best for our students and what our teachers want to be seeing as well. So we're hoping to see a return of students. We definitely received big bumps in kindergarten and first grade. We also received big bumps in 11th grade and 12th grade. And it seems to be that we're struggling with the 2 through 10, whether it's parents that made different choices for their students, in the last couple of years because of COVID, based on their individual needs. We know that of the students that we lost, over 60% of the students that we lost were because families moved off the island. I don't want to say there's nothing we can do about that, but if a family is moving, I think it's safe to assume that they're not moving only because of they're dissatisfied with schools. I think that there's a lot more that goes into it. We also know that we all have always seen parents and students make the decisions that a private school might meet their needs better, whether they're looking for a larger emphasis in arts education, if they're looking for smaller classes that private schools are able to do, if they're looking for wider opportunities in language learning and in world language learning, things that a public school isn't able to provide for individual students. No, I'm not saying that I want to see anyone going. I'm not saying that I don't want to see anyone coming back. But those are things, those are factors that we all balance. And I frankly support parents in making the best decisions for their individual students. I know there was a lot of uncertainty, and there is still a lot of uncertainty with what the public schools, with what Mercer Island School District can provide for our students right now in the world of COVID, and what things are going to look like next week and next month. I think that we've been very successful with the things that we've had control over, but we don't have control over everything. There's no question. The mask mandates come down from the state. The physical distancing requirements come down from the state. The vaccine obligations come down from the state. Those are things that we are obligated, the school district is obligated by law to follow, and we will, as certainly as long as I'm involved, but I'm sure it will continue, will follow the directives of public health and OSPI, the state office of the superintendent of public instruction, as well as the curriculum decisions based on the Board of Education. We are obligated by law to follow those things, and we will. The implementation is often left up to the local school district and left up to us without the benefit of funding in order to implement them. So, these are really unique challenges that we face, and COVID has exacerbated all of it. One thing, as a school board director, I have been fortunate to work in a group of school board directors from 5 different local area school districts, Bellevue, North Shore, Issaquah, Lake Washington, and Mercer Island. And based on the Open Public Meeting Act, we can't meet as more than 2 board directors at any time, not in public. And so there's 2 of us that participate on that, and 2 from the other districts. And, we're all facing a lot of the similar challenges, and the huge benefit of being able to meet, and we meet weekly. We meet with public health. We meet with Superintendent Reichtel with the State Office of Public Instruction. We invite our local superintendents to participate as well, so that we can watch them interact with and the questions that they're asking public health. And we are meeting with our local decision makers, whether it's our state representatives, state senator, and our state legislators, who are making the decisions and the funding decisions that we benefit from, as well as our federal representatives. We've had representatives of all of our from our federal office, our members of Congress and senators, meeting with them and advocating for our school district, and advocating for our students based on its largely funding needs. One thing that's really been a struggle from Mercer Island School District is the emergency funding that we've received from the state and from federal government, the ESSER dollars, the ESSER funding. Mercer Island has received about $270 per student with emergency funding. The average for Washington State public districts is over $3,000 a student. And a lot of it is based on Title I. It's very shocking. Lori's eyebrows went up. I don't think you can see her on screen, yeah. But it is shocking. And one thing that's really challenging to hear is, we're this rich district and we have all the funding that we need. That's completely the opposite. We have lots of wealthy people in our district, but the district, frankly, we struggle in terms of dollars per student, more so than any other district. We are tremendously grateful for all of the money that we receive from the Mercer Island Schools Foundation, from the PTAs, from Mercer Island, from the city, in terms of Mercer Island Youth and Family Services, that gives us the ability to make those decisions and support our students in those ways. But when it comes from the money that the district has, which is the budget that we have and that you see, and when we are looking at the $1.6 million shortfall, that's purely money that comes from the state government, or from the state and from the federal budgets. And again, $270 per student. We haven't begun to hit the cost of what we spent on building materials, on improving the HVAC systems that we've needed to do in terms of masking and the plexiglass barriers that we use in the lunchrooms, in terms of the testing materials that we need. All of those things, we are in the red for those. We're showing the school districts in the red for those. Fortunately, with our levies and our capital and technology levy that is going to be up for renewal this year, by the way, I'll just put a plug in there to support our local levies. We were in a really great position coming into COVID to being able to put technology in our students' hands, frankly, very quickly. So our 3 and up had that technology, and then we were able to put technology in the hands of younger students so that they could access education at home in a fairly quick turnaround. So I guess what my point is that, I think it's our directors' jobs, school board directors' jobs, responsibility, as well as our community responsibility to be advocating for the money that we need to serve our students. 85% of our school district budget is people. It's our staff, it's our teachers, it's our school bus drivers, it's our custodial staff, and it's everyone's like, cut the budget when you're over budget. Of course we need to be fiscally responsive and make sure that we're budget neutral. That's absolutely, I agree 100%. Let's keep in mind when you're saying that, you're talking about people. It's their livelihood. It's our staff that have been dedicated to our students. And it's not so easy just to say, go cut them. We don't have programs to cut. We have, every program cut that we make impacts our students as directly as every staffing decision that we make impacts people. And not only does it impact the staff, it impacts the students that they serve. That's the talk. We started talking about the things. There's no question that we need to have a balanced budget. And there's 2 major ways to do that, is either find a way to increase enrollment or find a way to cut the budget. And keep in mind that each one has pros and cons. You can find a combination of those, but it's just not that simple a decision. And like I said, this enrollment decline is not a shock. We knew it was coming. We were hoping that we were going to be able to right size our school, meaning with the right numbers of teachers to students ratio based on our funding models, that we would be able to do that over time with natural retirements and other teachers leaving, so that we wouldn't have to make any difficult decision that no leadership team or board ever wants to make in terms of laying off our valued staff. So that hopefully that answers your questions regarding the enrollment and budget that we're looking at right now. I would be remiss if I don't hit on some of the things in the community that's happening with regards to the highly capable program for our 3rd through 5th graders, as well as what's happening with inclusive practices.
Deborah, just 1 second. You have like 6 minutes, right? Elaine, do you have any questions? Okay, Carol, are you done?
I'm good, thank you.
Yeah, okay. I know, I figured, but I was like, does
They
any
asked-
questions?
They asked me all
Okay,
the questions they want to ask
Then
me.
you go ahead and finish
So
with
I'm
the
going
high
to talk
cap.
a little bit about highly capable, the highly capable program and what's happening there. And I have been fortunate to be the board director who's been the representative on our inclusive practices grant that we've done through the Washington Superintendents Association and the WASDA School Board Directors Association, our statewide associations, has offered this grant for school districts in Washington to really take a look at the inclusive practices. And that in turn has really helped us take a look at, are we providing the best services possible for the most students in our district with regards to their needs in both special education and in highly capable services. So at this point in time, there's been a shift since Superintendent Kolosky came on board in terms of the way that we serve our students. She has shifted from an increasing, I'm trying to get through this quickly because it's been a long process. And I, of course, only have 5 minutes left. So, and I could talk about it more at other forums, or if you've got more specific questions, please contact me. But basically, it started out with increasing our instructional coaches to help our teachers with professional development in terms of engaging their students in the classroom. So really learning and growing. We know that, as we all go through our careers, and I'm kind of, halfway, maybe a little past halfway to 2/3 of the way through my career. I enjoy engaging with others, and especially younger attorneys who are just coming out through law school and really learning, doing that ongoing training and learning things that are happening in the legal world now. And the same thing for our teachers. Our Superintendent Kolosky has increased instructional coaching. She's increased the opportunity for professional development for our teachers. We built that into the school day, to the school year, so that our teachers are receiving, we had the smallest number of paid days for our teachers, and we've increased that at least several days in the time that she's been here, very much with the board support, knowing that our teachers, that our teachers deserve to be as well trained as possible, that we are able to attract and retain teachers, high quality teachers, knowing that we are able to continue with help them with their professional development. So the big shift with regards to special education services and the highly capable services is really the shift from program to services. It's the way that they're implemented. We know that if we meet each and every student where they are and provide them with individual services that they need, that they will succeed. So some students learn great in a big classroom and can absorb the content in that way. Many students need one-on-one instruction in order to absorb that content. Some can absorb that content very quickly when it's on an individual basis, and some need to receive that content in multiple ways, whether it's through reading it themselves, whether it's listening to it, whether it's engaging and actually using the kinetic experiences and really experiencing that information physically. Lots of students learn in different ways or a combination thereof. Right now, we've only been able to serve our highly capable students in grades 3 through 5, through an individual, through those specific classrooms. So we pull them out of their home schools, send them and put them in a classroom. And that means that, say there's students who qualify in one area but not in another, or are many students who are academically talented, academically gifted, and might not have the qualifications needed to qualify as a highly capable student, which is really a very specific identifier. We can't serve those students in the same way because they're not sitting in that highly capable classroom. So what we're trying to do is remove labels and remove barriers. So take away the label of the highly capable classroom and provide highly capable services. And sorry, it's been a long time of talking. Provide services to all the students who can benefit from them, whether or not they're sitting in this one particular classroom or not. And by removing those barriers, we can provide services to students that have been shut out of them, since we've been doing these very specific programs. The same thing for our students with special needs. Just because a student has special needs in one area doesn't mean that they have special needs in another area. We want them in their classrooms, in their general education classrooms as much as possible, so that they can benefit from the general education instruction. One of the educational hierarchies that's been in place now for several years is MTSS, multi-tiered systems of support. What that means is all students are general education students first. All students are the students of every teacher at the school, and that every student, regardless of what classroom they're sitting in, should receive general education services. At that point, some students can have their needs met with general education. Some students cannot. So then we bump up to tier 2 level of support. And those are our students who have highly capable needs or have special education needs, whether it's our students with dyslexia that may need additional support in reading, or our students who excel in math and aren't challenged with the regular curriculum they're receiving in the classroom. They can have those services, whether it's from their classroom teacher or from a pull-out model if that's necessary, or from specialized instruction, so that they are able to receive those services. It's across the board. So students, so say this 6 students in this general education classroom needs these extra math skills or these extra supportive math skills, but then here's these other 10 students that need these types of services in order to reach their greatest potential. And this way, when it's services being provided rather than placing students in programs, students can receive the services that they need. So no one's talking about taking away highly capable services. It's being able to provide them in ways that we haven't been able to do in the structure that we've had set up. Is it an adjustment to the way that our students have learned? A little bit. It's much more of an adjustment in the way that our teachers teach. But I personally have seen many teachers teaching in this modality and know that our teachers are very capable of providing these lessons to our students. A big pushback that we get, I'm running out of time, a big pushback that we get and that teachers get is, how on earth are they going to teach students with this wide a variety of skills? They've been doing it for years. And that's also one of the reasons that we've built the model of instructional coaching and the MTSS, so that our teachers have the support they need when they're struggling to meet the need of a student. They have resources to ask for help, and their personal, their learning communities within the schools and their departments, they have the supports that they need in order to help our students learn. So I'm really excited about things that are happening at Mercer Island School District. We're, now that we're coming back from COVID and able to provide those services, I, have a lot more to say, and I know that I'll say them in some of the other forums. But I'm really excited about where we are and where we're going. We haven't achieved the goals, and frankly, we never will. And we hopefully never will, because we want to see that continued improvement. So I would say that, look at the big picture, ask the difficult questions, and challenge the leadership team and your classroom teacher to make sure that they're doing everything they can to support your children. But that's what I think that we're all here for. And I certainly know as a board director, I want to hear those things. And I ask those difficult questions. But I also support our staff, knowing that our staff is doing the best that they can to support our students, and that our best can constantly improve. So again, reach out.
Give your email address one more time as we are recording this.
And my email address is electdeborahlurie@gmail.com. My phone number is on my website, which is Deb for Kids, Deb, the number 4 kids. And happy to chat with anyone further. And I really appreciate everyone who tuned in and who is tuning in the future.
Well, and thank you for being our first one, and for practically speaking for 65 minutes. That's a lot. Go drink a lot of water.
Yes.
But thank you very much. And thank you for everyone who came in the room.
Yes.
I appreciate it.
Thank
We have
you so
Michael
much.
Curry coming up on Tuesday night at 7 o'clock. We'll open the door at 7:15. We start. Thank you.
Thank you.